deposits. The law applicable for bank secrecy law is RA 1405 for peso currency deposits. But for foreign currency deposit, we have the Foreign Currency Deposit Act, RA 6426. Let's talk about 1405 first. So, 1405 was passed in 1955. During that time, ano ba nangyari noong 1955? The war has just concluded. Kakatapos lang ng war, sira ang economy, sira ang mga infrastructure, there was a need to develop. There was a need to develop economically. Kaya lang, people back then were not putting their money with the banks. Bakit? Dahil takot sila sa uncertainty that may happen. Kasi kakatapos lang ng war, hindi mo alam kung magkakaroon ulit ng another war. So, no one will be putting money in the banks. Saan nila tinatago yung pera? Sa bahay-bahay lang nila. Private hoarding. Nakatago lang yung pera sa kanila. To be used in case na magkaroon ng another emergency. Because there is no money put in banks, banks cannot act as financial intermediaries. If you can recall yung unang discussion natin, the banks cannot divert the funds for those who can utilize them for to effect economic development. Hindi walang nagde-deposit, walang maipautang yung bangko, walang makapangutang, walang makapag-develop ng economy. So, because of that, the Congress decided to pass Secrecy of Bank Deposits Law. Before, there was no Secrecy of Bank Deposits. Kung meron mong confidentiality between the depositor and the client, it's based on stipulation, contractual stipulation. Pero kung wala kang stipulation in the bank, open yan for inquiry. Ayaw din maglabas ng tao ng pera kasi pag nalaman ng gobyerno na may pera ka, the government may ask you to contribute to the development of the nation. Siyempre, sino bang selfish na Pilipino ang gusto nun? Wala. So, walang naglalabas ng pera. But because of RA 1405, nagkaroon ng bank secrecy law, nilabas yun, nag-start na ulit mag-deposit ng pera ang Pilipino. So, if you will look, again, the purpose or state policy under 1405 is actually to encourage investment, to discourage private hoarding, all in the aim of economic development, national development, economic development. So, ano po ang coverage ng law? What are the deposits, or what are considered confidential under the law? First one is bank deposits, particularly peso deposits. Because foreign currency deposit covered siya ng ibang law. If this peso deposit, does it include trust accounts? The question is, does it include trust accounts? The answer is yes. Bakit po yes? Because sabi ng Supreme Court sa Estrada case. In the Estrada case, sabi ng court, deposits of whatever nature is included, including trust accounts. So, dahil doon, considered siya as peso deposit. But technically, if you will look at it, peso deposit, the contract between the bank and the depositor is actually a simple loan. Pag trust account ka, it's a trust. Yung naaral nyo sa partnership agency, trust siya, magkaiba siya. Kaya lang, in bank secrecy law, the Supreme Court construed the word deposit there as in a loose sense or yung medyo broad sense, anything that is placed in the bank. So, lahat ng deposit, even if it includes trust account, they are considered as covered by the bank secrecy law. Last time na tinanong po yan is 2 years ago, I think, yung trust account, whether they are included. The answer should be yes, included sila. But take note class, kapag magko-compute kayo ng insurance deposit, covered ba yung trust account? Hindi po, di ba? One of our exclusion, kung magko-compute kayo ng deposit insurance is investment money market placement, investments, and trust account. Excluded siya kasi hindi talaga siya deposit. But for purposes of determining whether they are confidential, under 1405, yes, they are confidential pursuant to ruling of the Supreme Court. Peso deposits lang po ba ang covered? No, hindi lang. Covered din ang investment in government bonds or securities. Kapag bonds or securities ng government, confidential also. We're under 1405. So, dalawa po yung coverage. Hindi, although, bank secrecy law, misnomer, in the sense na hindi naman po natin sinisecret yung bangko. Ang sinisecret po natin doon ay yung deposit at saka yung investment in government bonds and securities. Tinanong na po yun noong 2015, nung barko din, walang ba't napakasulat po. Tinanong din noong 2015 kung ang government bonds ba ay covered by bank secrecy law. The answer is yes, because specifically indicated in RA 1405. So pag bonds, government bonds included. Sir, paano naman po yung mga hindi deposits at hindi rin government funds? Halimbawa, nag-open ka avail ka ng service sa bangko, safety deposit box. Nag-open ka ng safety deposit box. Naglagay ka ng pera doon. Technically, may pera ka pa rin sa bangko. At di nag-inquire sa bangko. Should the bank disclose it to the people, to the person inquiring? The answer is still no. The money that you deposited with the bank is still confidential, but not under 1405, but under the general banking law. Particularly section 55.1b. Pakinote po yun, pakibasa lang po pag-uwi. 55.1b, ang sabi po doon, all money, funds, documents received by the bank are confidential, subject only to one exception, order of competent court. But, peso deposits are governed by bank secrecy law. Yun yung nakalagay sa provision, essentially. So, bakit po natin kailangan distinguish? Kasi yung exemption. Sa bank secrecy law, ang dami pong exceptions. Pero sa 55.1b, isa lang, order of competent court. So, you just read 55.1b, 1990 lang yun. So, going back sa RA 1405, punta po tayo ngayon sa mga exceptions. Exceptions under 1405. So, as a rule, all peso deposits, government investment in government bonds are confidential. The exceptions are the following. Number one, sino po pwedeng magsabi ng unang exception?
Upon written permission.
Si ano po?
Upon written permission.
Upon written consent of the depositor. Okay. So, remember, bank secrecy law are actually protection in favor of the depositor. Right, it is your right to have your bank deposits treated to be confidential. However, your right may be waived. Remember, under your civil law, rights may be waived provided they are not contrary to law, morals, good order, public policy, or prejudicial to the right of a third person. So, dito, yung right mo sa confidentiality, you can waive it. That's why one recognized exception is if you have a written consent of the depositor. Previously, earlier, we discussed ano ba yung mga instances na kailangan mo talaga mag-waive ng bank secrecy mo. Kanina, sabi ko, kapag sa DOS reloads, required ka mag-waive. Meron pa ba kayo naisip na may kailangan mag-waive? Sa tax, under section 6 of your tax code, if you will compromise your tax liability on the basis of financial incapacity to pay, you have to waive your bank secrecy. Bakit? Kasi for the BIR to examine or to determine if you are indeed incapable financially to pay the tax. So, yun yung mga waiver. Second exception. Ano pa? In cases of impeachment. So, what is impeachment? It is a process of removing impeachable officers defined under the Constitution on grounds provided also therein for removing them from office. So, sino po ba yung mga impeachable officers natin? President, Vice President, members of the Supreme Court, Constitutional Commissioners, members of the Constitutional Commission, Ombudsman. So these persons can be removed from office via impeachment. So when do we say that we have a case for impeachment? Because the law says in cases of impeachment, meaning if there is if there's an impeachment case. When do we say that we have a case for impeachment? When you file a complaint before the House of Representatives, may impeachment case na ba? Wala pa. Pag nag-hearing ba sila, may impeachment case na? Wala pa. Pag nagbotohan, may impeachment case na? Wala pa. Kailan nagkakaroon ng impeachment case? Once they transmit the articles of impeachment to the Senate, and the Senate acted as a Senate impeachment court or organized themselves as Senate impeachment court. Pag meron ng Senate impeachment court, may articles of impeachment na meron ka ng case for impeachment. Doon mo pa lang pwedeng pa-open yung mga bank accounts, which happened during the time of Corona. Pinapa-open yung peso deposits. Pero napa-open ba yung mga dollar deposits? Hindi. Kasi in cases of impeachment is not an exception sa foreign currency deposit. Pero yung peso deposit, pwedeng pa-open in cases of impeachment. Do not be confused class sa impeachment. Pag binoto ng mga House of Representatives na impeach na siya. Yung impeachable officer. Pero whether guilty siya on the charges or not, doon siya sa impeachment court sa Senate magkakaroon na hearing. Katulad ng nangyari kay Trump, impeach siya, di ba, nung mga sa representatives. Pero hindi pa siya, technically hindi siya naaalis kasi hindi pa siya nag-declare na guilty doon sa Senate. Anyway, other instances, ano pa? Sige. Next.
Upon the order
Ano?
Upon the order of competent court, cases where the money deposited is invested in the subject matter of the litigation.
Okay, in cases of the order of competent court where the subject matter deposited is, if the subject matter of litigation is the money deposited. For that, you have to read the case of Mellon Bank versus Magsino and Union Bank versus CA. Kasi po, yun po yung mag-i-explain kailan po ba subject matter of litigation kailan subject matter of litigation yung pera or hindi. Just briefly, ano ba nangyari dun sa Mellon Bank versus Magsino? May nag-deposit sa account ni recipient in the amount of 1 million pesos. Pero dapat ang deposit lang ay 1,000. Kaya lang nagkamali ng deposit yung bangko, nalagay niya 1 million. Anong ginawa ngayon ng recipient? Siyempre, kung yung 1 million ako, withdraw agad. Withdraw, ginastos yung iba. Yung iba, kinalat sa different accounts. So, deposit sa different accounts. Ngayon, nung pinapa-open na yung mga accounts kung saan siya nag-deposit subsequently, ang tanong ay in-object on the ground of secrecy of bank deposits. Ano sabi ng court doon? The court said, you can open the accounts because the money deposited in those different accounts are the subject matter of litigation. Yung pera na mistakenly deposited, na withdraw and deposit sa account, that is the subject matter of litigation. Compare it with the case of Union Bank. In Union Bank, nag-deposit ng 1 million doon sa account, yung depositary bank, nag-deposit ng 1 million doon sa client, pero sisingilin niya dapat yung drawing back, kaya lang yung drawing back, nung siningil niya, ang na-encode lang ay 1,000 pesos instead na 1 million. So, what happened is actually, Kasi nag-encash siya ng cheque ni client. So, 1 million. So, si depositary, anong gagawin niya? Sisingilin niya kanino yung 1 million? Kay drawing. Kasi ibabawas doon sa account ng client. Kaya lang si depositary bank, nung in-encode niya or nag-send siya ng transmission kay drawing bank, ang nalagay niya, 1K lang. 1K. So, anong binawas ni drawing bank sa account ni client? 1K lang din. 1K lang din yung binawas. So, anong ginawa ngayon ng depositary bank? After 1 year, syempre, mag-audit yan, ibabangga lahat ng deposit, withdrawal, na-realize na mayroong mali. So, anong ginawa ni depositary? He demanded from the drawing bank to produce the 999 Okay. Bayaran si depositary. Kasi yun yung nilagay niya kay client. Anong sabi ng drawing? Nope, hindi mo gagawin niya. So, hindi kita bibigyan ng 999K. So, anong ginawa ng depositary? Nagpala siya ng case against the drawing bank. And nung nagpala siya ng case, anong gusto ni drawing ni depositary? Open mo to. Open the account of the client. So we can see whether or not there is really an amount pa from where you can get the 999,000. Anong sabi ng Supreme Court dito? Can depositary open the account? No. Why not? Because the money deposited in the client's account is not the subject matter of litigation. What is the subject matter of litigation? This one. The erroneous input of the amount and the refusal of the drawing bank to honor the error or to correct the error. Ito yung issue sa kanila. Violation of clearinghouse rules. Hindi yung pera ni client na to. Walang kinalaman to whether may pera or wala. Ang issue niya is i-honor mo, bayaran mo. Subject matter of litigation ba yung pera? Hindi. Pinababalik yung pera, pero yun yung consequence. No breach, no obligation in drawing. Unlike kanina, yung Mellon Bank versus Magsino, nakatanggap ng pera, dineposit sa different account, the money sought to be recovered is actually the money deposited in those various accounts, which essentially is the subject matter of litigation. Nakuha? Sana. Anyway, other exception that we have,
In cases where the money deposit.
ano po?
In cases where the money
In
deposit.
cases of
Upon order.
order of court in cases of bribery, dereliction of duty, and including RA, anti-graft and corrupt practices and analogous circumstances such analogous crimes such as plunder. So itong mga to, pag may court order dyan, pwedeng pa-open yung bank account. Ano po ba yung bribery? Ilan po yung types of bribery that we have under the revised penal code?
Direct,
Direct bribery,
indirect
bribery. Dala lang po. Tatlo po. Ano po yung pangatlo?
qualified
Qualified
bribery.
So, in those three instances, pwedeng pa-open. Ano po yung dereliction of duty? It's failure to perform the duty required by law. So, halimbawa po niyang crimes na dereliction of duty would be knowingly rendering unjust judgment, knowingly rendering interlocutory order, knowingly rendering judgment by interlocutory order by negligence, betrayal of public trust. These are all dereliction of duty. RA 3019 pertains to anti-graft and corrupt practices. So if you're charged with violation of section 3 of anti-graft and corrupt practices, your bank account can be ordered open, including plunder. Plunder, pwede rin. Sa plunder, magkano nga po yung amount? 50 million. Other exception po, in case of dormant accounts. Ano ba yung dormant accounts? Okay, when in case of premise under Unclaimed Balances Act. Unclaimed Balances Act. Ano po ba yung Unclaimed Balances Act? If within a period of 10 years, there's no action or transaction in your account, it will be treated as a dormant account. Transaction meaning withdrawal or deposit within a period of 10 years, or if shorter, if the bank knows that the owner of the bank account is already dead and no one is claiming the money. In which case, it will be treated as a dormant account. What will the bank do? Magpapadala siya ng notice sa last known address ng depositor. Kung walang sumagot, he will report it to the Treasurer of the Philippines. And the Treasurer of the Philippines will ask the Office of the Solicitor General to institute escheat proceedings. Bakit po escheat proceedings? Under your loan succession, who is the last intestate heir?
Government.
The state.
The state.
Diba? State. Kung wala na po namatay po, walang heir, walang nag-claim, state po yung mag-claim. That is why, dito, 10 years, ang presumption doon is patay ka na, kung walang galaw sa transaction mo, or if alam na patay ka na pero walang nag-claim, i-report na yan sa Treasurer of the Philippines for the institution of escheat proceedings through the Office of the Solicitor General. Di ginagawa po ba yun ng OSP? Opo, ginagawa ng OSP.
Bawaran to.
Ginagawa rin po nila yun. Anyway, other exceptions po, but that one is incidental disclosure. Wala naman po nag-i-inquire doon. It's just that they're mandated by law to disclose. Other exceptions? Ayan, in unexplained wealth, that also includes yung sa anti-graft and corrupt, so related sila, unexplained wealth. Ano pa po? Okay, BIR. Sa BIR po, kanina meron na tayong isa in case of financial incapacity to pay, but also, if the decedent dies, the BIR can inspect the bank account for purposes of determining the gross estate of the decedent. Ano pa po maliban sa gross estate of the decedent? Hindi pa. Meron pa po sa tax. Request for
Tax information.
pursuant to RA. Okay, request for tax information of foreign authorities pursuant to law, pursuant to treaty or convention to which the Philippines is a party or is a party. Class, tinanong na yan ng 2012 yung exception, yung foreign exchange of foreign tax information. Amendment po yan sa section 6 ng tax code. So, tatlo na po yung BIR kung kailan pwede siya kailan maka-inquire into bank deposits. The first one is yung kanina, spousal compromise, financial incapacity to pay. Yung pangalawa, for the purpose of determining the gross estate of the decedent. Pangatlo, exchange of tax information pursuant to treaty or convention to which the Philippines is a party of. Nasa law na po yan. Tinanong na po yan before sa bar. So, posible ulit yung matanong. What else? Ano pa po? Ito class nire-recite ko sa inyo pero hopefully kabisaduhin ninyo. Last year, alam niyo po kung ano yung tinanong sa bank secrecy? Bribery. So, kung hindi nyo alam na pwede palang mag-open sa bribery, hindi nyo, mali na kayo na sagot. You lose your 5 points. Ano pa po exception natin? Ay, mamaya na yung money laundering.
Compromise tax liability.
Ano?
Compromise tax liability.
Yun na po yung sa tax. What if, in case of satisfaction of judgment, garnishment of the account, that is also an allowable disclosure. Incidental disclosure. Bakit po siya incidental? If a judgment is rendered against you, the court may order that your bank account be garnished to satisfy the payment of your obligation or judgment debt. Bakit po gano'n? Bakit po pwede i-garnish yung bank account? Kasi po, kung hindi po pwede i-garnish, anong gagawin lang ng natalo sa kaso? I-convert niya lahat ng properties niya sa money, i-deposit niya sa bangko, and then no one will be able to reach it. So, to avoid that absurd situation, the court allowed exception, incidental disclosure to bank deposits. So, the bank will not actually inform unpaid details ng bank account. Hindi. Isasabihin lang niya sa court kung satisfied ba or hindi satisfied. Kung may enough money ba or wala. Kung may enough money, pababayaran lang. Kung hindi, wala na. Ganun lang yung sasabihin no, bank sa court. So, it's an incidental disclosure. Otherwise, it will be easy to circumvent judgment obligation. In cases of ombudsman investigation, pwede po ba? Pwede. Pwede ba na walang pending case? Hindi pwede. If you read ombudsman law, there is no requirement of a pending case. However, in Marquez versus Desierto 2004 case, the court said, ombudsman, you can check bank deposits only if you have a pending case already. If you have no pending case and you check, that would amount to a dangerous fishing expedition. Kasi ano yun, mag-check, ay random tayo kung sino yung titignan natin. Hindi pwede yun. Kailangan may pending case na. The inspection must only relate to the bank deposit in question, and it must be done in camera inspection, meaning within the chambers or within the presence of the judge. So, technically, chambers, natin mo sa chamber ni judge. Kaya kung dami mong records, pwede si judge na yung pupunta sa bangko. So, parang sort of ocular inspection. Other exceptions po? Meron pa? Wala na? Ano sir, sorry?
Inquiring into or examination of any deposit for investment by any banking institution and the examination is made by the Banco Central of Pilipinas in the course of the periodic
Ayan. During the earlier kanina meron tayong sinabi na regular and special examination. Of course, syempre pag in-examine mo yung libro ng bangko, incidentally, you'd be examine also the deposit account or details no mga depositors. Also, for the BSP to determine whether nagko-comply siya sa mga rules and regulations regarding deposits. So, kailangan din ma-inspect. Meron pa ba? Ha?
Human Security Act.
Mamaya natin i-discuss. In relation sa AMLA. Meron pa? Wala na? Okay, sige, wala na. So, question. What if you have illegally obtained details of a bank deposit? Can you use it in court? Will it be admissible in court? Will it be admissible in court? When is an evidence admissible in court? When it is relevant and when it is competent. When is an evidence competent? When it is not excluded by the law or by the rules. Is there a law or is there a rule excluding illegally obtained bank deposit details from using it as evidence in court? Wala po. Therefore, you can use illegally obtained bank deposit details. That's also the ruling of the Supreme Court. Pwede niyong gamitin. Pero huwag kayong aamin na kayo yung gumawa, kayo yung nag-inquire. Because if you do so, you will be held liable for, criminally liable, and you'll be imprisoned and be fined. Pwede kayo makulong, pwede kayo fine in the court. Pero if the question is whether you can use the illegally obtained evidence, you can. The fruit of poisonous tree doctrine does not apply kasi nga, the evidence is competent and irrelevant, so admissible siya. Please take note of that, class. Baka isipin nyo, hindi sir fruit of the poisonous tree, hindi po pwede. No, it does not apply because there is no law or rules or rule excluding illegally obtained deposit details from being used in court or as evidence in court. Now let's go to Foreign Currency Deposit Act. Sa Foreign Currency Deposit Act, our general rule, it only applies to foreign currency deposit, and our general rule is also applied. Yung rule natin is, all bank deposits are confidential. Ano po yung exception natin? Under the law, very, very few exception. Actually, under the law, isa lang. Yung iba, sa ibang law, makikita. Under the law, there's only one exception upon the written permission of the depositor concerned. Yun yung only exception. However, under several laws, meron na rin exception. Yung compromise of tax liability may also apply. Gross estate of the resident may also apply. Foreign exchange of foreign tax information may also apply. Yung exception sa AMLAC and Human Security Act or terrorism, they also apply. So yun lang po yung recognized exception. So katulad po sa impeachment, pwede po bang i-open yung dollar accounts? Hindi. Last bar exam, ang tinanong po, there's a bribery case. The court ordered the opening of the bank deposits, peso and dollar deposits. Pwede ba pa-open? Yes, only with respect to peso. Sa dollar, hindi mo pwede pa-open. O yung already get the 5 points pagkasagot mo yun. Eh, kung hindi mo kabisado yung exceptions, mamamali ka. There's also additional or peculiar thing about foreign currency deposits. They cannot be subject to court processes, court garnishment. They cannot be garnished. They cannot be subject to court processes or court orders. Bawal po, Islam pending. That's provided under the law. Meaning, hindi nyo sila pwedeng i-garnish, hindi nyo pwedeng ipa-hold yung mga pera doon. You cannot. Through court order, bawal po. There are only very few exceptions. The first one is in case of money laundering. Pwede yun. Pwede ipa-freeze. Pero, the second exception is in the case of, this one is established by the court, Salvacion versus Central Bank. Salvacion versus Central Bank. Ano ba nangyari dun sa Salvacion? Si Karen Salvacion, sa minor, she was kidnapped and repeatedly raped by Greg Bartelli, an American tourist. When Greg was captured, Greg was arraigned, kaya lang after arraignment, nakatakas. The only thing, properties found in possession of Greg were the bank deposit, foreign currency deposit from China Bank. Ngayon, Karen Salvacion wants to garnish the bank deposits, foreign currency bank deposits, as payment for moral exemplary damages for the rape that multiple rape that she suffered. Of course, the China Bank objected on the ground that under Foreign Currency Deposit Act, there can be no garnishment or court processes subjecting foreign currency deposit. BSP also said bawal din because of the strict tenor of the law. Kaya lang, anong ruling ng court doon? In the interest of justice, the court said, ano ba yung reason why we have Foreign Currency Deposit Act? To encourage investment. Pero dito, si Greg Bartelli ba isang investor? No. He was just a tourist. And he simply sojourned in the Philippines for a short time. Hindi siya investor. Nag-stay lang siya as a tourist. Also, in case of doubt in the interpretation and application of laws, it is presumed that the law may be badly intended for the justice to prevail. That was the ruling of the court. Therefore, inallow the open, i-garnish, at i-open yung bank account ni Greg Bartelli. But again, that is given in your exam, sa bar, or sa exam ko, at hindi yun yung facts, huwag na kayo mag-invoke ng justice kasi hindi kayo walang hindi yun. Hindi yun yung sagot. It may fall under the general rule na confidential.
But he invested well.
Ah,
Martiri invested well.
Anyway, so that's Foreign Guarantee Deposit Act. Also, if you fail to if you violate Foreign Currency Deposit Act similar to peso deposit, you'll have criminal sanction, imprisonment and fine. Alright, so yun lang yung foreign currency, yun lang yung bank secrecy law. May tanong ba? Wala. Let's move to Anti-Money Laundering Act or AMLA. Kaya pa? Kaya pang sumagot in chorus?
Nag-course nga.
Class, sabi ko nga sa inyo, hindi ko na kayo pinapahirap to na mag-recite. Ang iniinip ko na lang, before you come to class, you read. Kasi kung nakupo ka lang ngayon at hindi ka nagbasa, hindi mo alam kung ano yung pinagsasabi ko. Pero kung nagbasa ka, nakakasunod ka kahit paano. Sabi nga ni Justice Leone sa tweet niya, di ba? You have to read the provisions of law. Wala akong issue kung nagre-reviewer kayo or what, or Lex Pareto, or nag-Lex Pareto, or nagpakwampo, walang problema. Kaya lang, ilagay ko na sa syllabus kung ano yung mga provisions na kailangan yung basahin. Pakibasa man lang yung mag-codal po kayo. Kung hindi kayo maglilibro, okay, fine. Pero mag-codal po kayo. Hindi kayo, sir, ma'am, hindi kayo papasa kung hindi kayo mag-aaral talaga. Ayoko na nga kayo makita, di ba? Last na to. So, next time, dapat lawyers na kayo. So, you have to read. Tsagain nyo na po kasi kung hindi, walang mangyayari sa atin. Anyway, so let's move to money laundering. Anti-Money Laundering Act. Our Anti-Money Laundering Act is RA 9160. Please take note, ang dami na pong amendments na Money Laundering Act. The latest is RA 10927, 2 years ago. 3 years ago na ba? Yan. Para po maintindihan natin what is the purpose of money laundering or Money Laundering Act. We look at the state policy again. State policy. Babalik lang po tayo sa state policy. Of course, the foremost state policy is to protect and preserve the integrity of the confidentiality of the peso deposits, of our deposits in general. Second, to ensure that the Philippines will not be used as a safe haven for money laundering. Bakit po ba importante sa atin na hindi i-prohibit ang money laundering? Kung wala pong money laundering, it will be sort of encouraging criminals to commit more crimes. Bakit? The more they commit crimes, they'll be able to, hindi naman yung proceeds ng crimes nila, hindi naman ma-forfeit kasi matatago nila. Kumbaga, kidnapping for mangidap kayo for ransom, pag yung pera nakakuha na sila ng pera, they can easily invest it. And it will not be criminal to invest it kasi nga walang money laundering. But here, we don't want that. We don't want these criminals to be encouraged in committing more crimes. That's why we have this money laundering. So, kahit i-commit mo yung crime, makakuha ka ng pera, pero mahihirapan ka pa rin gamitin yung pera na yan because of our money laundering law. Also, money laundering law, the AMLA, is actually in compliance with our international obligation to suppress money laundering. Under a treaty, money laundering is not only a national crime, it is a transnational crime. More often than not, money laundering is committed abroad. The predicate offense may be committed abroad. Money laundering happens here or vice versa. The predicate offense is committed here, money laundering happens abroad. Pwede yun. Transnational po kasi siya. Hindi siya dito lang sa Philippines. Also, and that's why in money laundering, we have, in general, 3 stages. Ano po yung 3 stages natin sa money laundering? The first one is placement. The second is layering. The third is integration. So, hindi nyo pa rin po alam yan hanggang ngayon, Diyos ko Lord, magbasa po kayo kasi tinatanong po yan sa bar. Placement, layering, integration. For 5 points, i-explain ninyo yung tatlo na yun. Ano po yung placement? You are putting the money. Ano po ba yung essence technically ng money laundering? In the crime of money laundering, the proceeds of unlawful activity are being disguised, concealed, or transacted in such a way as to conceal its originally illegitimate source. Yung illegal source mo, itatago mo siya by way of transacting into several ways. So, that is why laundering, kasi yung maraming pera, dirty money, we are putting it in a laundry to make it, to clean it, and use it again. Yun yung essence no 3 stages of money laundering. Placement, technically, you are placing it in industry establishment where it can be utilized, it can be concealed. Layering, ito na yung series of transaction to conceal the original source. And then integration. If you think that the money is already clean, you pull it out of the layering, you place it again in the public or in the community. That is integration. Bigyan po kayo ng specific example ng money laundering. Halimbawa po tayong lahat, nag-commit tayo ng, meron bang government official dito? Ano na lang, sa Bangko Sentral po ako nagtatrabaho, let's commit money heist. Tuturo ko sa inyo kung paano natin makuha yung ginto, saka yung mga pera sa loob ng planta, ng BSP sa Quezon City. So, halimbawa, nakuha natin yung pera. Nakuha tayo ng 1 billion. 1 billion. 1 billion. Ngayon, hinati-hati natin yung 1 billion. So, ilan po tayo dito? 50. So, 1 billion, magkano po yun? Hirap. 20 million. Nasa 20 million pesos, so 20 million tayo. Ngayon, kayo po, saan nyo gagawin, saan nyo lalagay yung pera ninyo? Pag pupunta kayo sa bangko, tatanggapin ba ng bangko yung 20 million nyo? Tatanungin ka kung saan ang galing. Bakit tatanungin? When you open a bank account, under the AMLA, there is a principle called KYC principle that is followed by banks and covered institutions. KYC stands for Know Your Client or Know Your Customer principle. That is why when you open bank account, kung lahat pa tayo may bank account na, o nakapag-open na, di ba ang daming pinipilapan, ang daming details na hiningi, and one of the details being asked is that, what are your sources of income? At magkano? So, halimbawa, chinek mo doon, government employee, you're earning 30,000 monthly, tapos magde-deposit ka ng 20 million, anong gagawin sa'yo ng bangko? I-report ka, baka ipakulong ka pa on the spot. Saan mo nakuha yung 20 million mo? Diba? So, that is what happened. So, hindi mo dadalhin yan sa bangko, hindi mo dadalhin yan sa mga covered institution. Iiwasan mo. So, saan mo siya pwedeng dalhin? Kaya yung iba, kung nakarinig na kayo, yung natutulog sa kama ng na puro pera. Kasi, more likely, ilalagay mo yun sa ilalim ng kama mo. Doon mo itatago. Pero gusto ba natin nakatago lang sa kama natin? Siyempre, ayaw natin nun. So, anong gagawin natin? Tuturuan ko kayo ng one way to launder. Pero huwag yung gagawin. So, meron sa atin, 5 sa inyo, halimbawa, punta kayo ng abroad. Sa bansa na walang money laundering law or maluwag ang money laundering law. Anong gagawin natin? Every month, magpapadala tayo doon ng 10,000 or 15,000. Kasi kung ikaw, government employee, kumikita ka ng 30,000, reasonable naman kung makapagpadala ka ng 15,000 monthly. Sabihin mo, meron kang kamag-anak abroad. Padala mo yung 20 million. Although it will take time, pero ganun talaga, para mal-launder natin, papadala natin. Yan, padala natin yung pera abroad. Doon sa lugar na walang money laundering or maluwag yung money laundering laws, yung 5 tao na pumunta doon, anong gagawin nila? They will layer the money. Sila na yung mag-i-invest doon, i-deposit sa bangko, with withdraw, invest sa stocks, with e-encash, etc. etc. Sila mag-i-layer doon. Ngayon, pag malinis na yung pera natin, anong gagawin nila? I-re-remit ulit pabalik sa atin. Pag nakaka-remit tayo ng 50,000 to 100,000 monthly, at pumunta ka sa bangko, tinanong ng bangko, paano ka nagkapera ng 50,000 to 100,000? Padala po yan na kamag-anak ko abroad. Yung bangko ba, magtataka pa? Reasonable, magpapadala sila ng pera. Siguro 50,000, 100,000 medyo malaki. Pero 50 below, papadala yung kamag-anak mo abroad, sinabi mo sa bangko, source of income, reasonable, hindi ka nakapwestyone. So, pag na-deposit mo na sa bangko, ayan na, pwede mo na siya gamitin. Malinis na. Matitrace pa ba yan? Hindi na yung matitrace. Or mahihirapan na matrace. Kasi yung counterpart country natin abroad, walang money laundering law or maluwang yung money laundering law nila.
Ano ba sa sir?
Yun na yung paparesearch ko sa inyo. So, kaya, ganun yung class, that is integration. Pag nakuha mo na ulit, gagamitin mo na. So, yung nakuha mo yung padala ni ate, padala ni pinsan, yun ay pag-i-invest mo ng mga business dito. So, na-integrate mo na ulit yung pera. Which we originally got from BSP, doon sa money heist natin. So, in effect, we have committed money laundering. Huwag mo natin gagawin yun. Yun po yung way, kaya ako tinuturo para hindi gawin. At pag may nalaman ako from Tarlac dito, nagpapadala ng ganung amount palagi, i-trace ko po from BSP. Kasi naman yung nagpapadala. Anyway, so that is our money laundering, stages of money laundering. Now, under our law, we have specifically defined what constitutes the crime of money laundering. Ano po ba yung money laundering na crime? How is it defined under the law? How is it committed? It is committed by any person who, knowing that the monetary instrument or money is a proceed of an unlawful activity, perform any of the following acts. Pakinote po class, the law required, the operative word here is know or knows that it is a proceed of unlawful activity. Meaning, the money, the person who does the transaction knows that it is a proceed of an unlawful activity. Pag hindi niya alam, wala siyang liability. Kumari, ginamit lang siya. Kumari, tayo nagla-launder sa kapatid natin, pwede patago mo na ng pera ko or pa-deposit na lang mo na ng pera ko sa account mo. Kung hindi niya alam, hindi siya liable for money laundering because the law requires knows. Dapat alam niya. Pag hindi niya alam, hindi siya liable. Ano po yung mga acts? Number 1, ano po yung first act under money laundering law? Ano po? Mr. Sir Raulito. Ano po yung unang-unang act, sir? Sa money laundering.
There is no underlying legal or trade
Sa
obligation.
suspicious transaction yan, sir.
Transact, proceed of any unlawful activity.
You transact the monetary instrument kasi,
Instrument of
okay.
property.
Sir, class, when we say monetary instrument kasi dito, pwedeng pera, madali kasi kung pera, pero monetary instrument may include promissory note, checks, and other proceeds na hindi kailangan in cash. Pwede po yung other form of money or presenting money. So, or property, even property, pwede rin. Basta proceeds sila ng unlawful activity. So, you transact, what else? You convert, transfer, dispose, conceal, disguise, or in any manner conceal the origin of the illegal source. Ano pa po? Ano? Yan, conceal. If you attempt or you conspire to commit money laundering, that is also considered liable for money laundering. So, mere attempt, mere conspiracy to commit money laundering, that is already considered as, you're liable already for money laundering. You aid, abet, assist in the commission, ano pa po? Yan. You perform or fail to perform an act which facilitated the commission of money laundering, liable ka rin. And for those covered persons who fail to report a covert transaction or suspicious transaction shall be liable for money laundering. So, kung titignan nyo naman po, lahat ng acts sa money laundering, it all points out to concealing the, or transaction or concealing the origin of the proceeds of the unlawful activity. Also, if covered persons fail to report suspicious or covered transactions, they're also liable for money laundering. What are unlawful activities? Ano po ba yung mga unlawful activities natin? Unlawful activities class are also referred to as predicate offenses. Predicate crime, predicate offenses, or unlawful activity, they refer to one and the same thing under Anti-Money Laundering Act. Meron pong enumeration under the law. Sir, ang dami po. Kailangan po ba namin i-memorize? Noong 2007 board exam po, the question was for 5 points, enumerate 5 predicate offenses of money laundering. So ano po ang cue natin? Mag-memorize naman ho kahit 10 lang. Hindi ko naman ho pero memorize lahat. Kung kaya nyo i-memorize lahat, better. If not, kahit ho 10. At saka mamaya yung may mga exception natin, dapat kabisado nyo rin. Pero ito ho, kahit 10 lang, yung mga common crimes na lang. Ano pa yung mga common crimes dyan? Diba, murder, kidnapping for ransom, plunder, theft, oy, kabisado nyo pala, pag pina-enumerate ko lahat niya sa exam, ha?
Basta puro, sir. Basta puro.
So, ano lang, pag-i-familiarize na lang, especially those common crimes, those which are usually committed. Ang wala po dyan is tax evasion or tax-related cases. Wala po kami kitang gano'n. Pero most of the common crimes there, and usually they have proceeds, yan. Counterfeiting ng pera, kasi may proceeds ka doon. Kidnapping for ransom, may proceeds ka din kasi doon. So they may involve money laundering or unlawful activity. Also, please take note, since this is a transnational offense, the predicate offense may be committed abroad. So, paano po pag iba yung tawag dun sa crime na nakalista sa atin sa crime abroad? Will it still be considered as predicate offense? Halimbawa sa atin, murder. Murder is a predicate offense. Pero abroad, walang murder. Ang meron doon, manslaughter, first degree manslaughter, etc. etc. Iba yung tawag nila. Kahit na po iba tawag nila, but if the offense, yung elements niya is substantially the same as ours, that will be treated as a predicate offense. Same pa rin sila. Predicate offense pa rin. Now, we have also, nabanggit na po natin kanina, money laundering may be committed by covered persons if they fail to report covered transactions and suspicious transactions. Now, we have to identify who are the covered persons, what are covered transactions, and what are suspicious transactions. Kasi, you may be held liable, and the covered persons may be held liable. First, who are covered persons? Covered persons can be categorized into 4. The first one are persons who are under or who are supervised by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Sino-sino po yung mga entities supervised by the BSP? Banks, Pasay Banks, trust entities, pawn shop, money remittance, ano pa po? Sino pa? Ha?
All other institutions.
And other financial institution. Ano ba po? Insurance, insurance commission. Okay, so those supervised by the BSP, they are covered persons. Second kind of covered person are those supervised by the insurance commissioner. Insurance commissioner. And who are supervised by the insurance commissioner? Insurance companies, reinsurance companies, insurance broker, insurance agents, sino pa?
Payment plans.
Health maintenance organization, under ba siya ng
Yes.
insurance? Covered. Kung lahat yan, lahat ng covered, lahat ng supervised by the Insurance Commission o IC, they are covered institutions. The third class of covered institutions are those supervised by the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. Sino po ba yung supervised ng SEC?
Securities dealers.
Security dealers, brokers,
Salesmen.
ano pa?
Investment houses.
Investment houses, ano pa? Ayan, sila po yun. Sino may yung mga binanggit nyo? The last kind of persons are the so-called designated non-financial business persons and professionals. Ito po, well, hindi sila persons or entities that are not covered, not supervised by ICs, BSP, or SEC. Sino-sino po sila? Jewelry dealers, dealers in precious stones, lawyers, accountants, are they covered? If they're only acting as a lawyer or as an accountant, they are not covered. But if they're managing the funds or securing the funds of their client, not as a lawyer or as an accountant, they are also covered. Sino pa po covered?
Company service provider.
Company service provider. Naka-encounter na ba kayo ng mga company service provider? Sila po yung nag-a-act na tutulungan kayo mag-establish ng corporation, sila yung magpaprocess ng mga papel para makabuo kayo ng corporation. They are all company service provider. They provide services to companies. Kaya CSP sila. Casinos, are they covered? Casinos are covered. Now, pursuant to RA 10927, casinos can either be internet-based or ship-based. Internet, yung nasa internet, ship yung mga offshore. Ano yung POGO? Yung Philippine Offshore Gaming Operations. If the gaming operation is in a ship, they are ship-based casinos. Then, casino sila because they're granted authority by the FATCOR. They are subject to money laundering laws. They are considered as covered persons. So all of these class are covered persons. So, ano yung duty nila? To report covered transactions and suspicious transactions. Otherwise, they will be liable for money laundering. Ano po yung covered transactions? The first one is transaction within a single banking business day in the amount exceeding how much? 500. Paano po pag 500 lang? Hindi covered. The law says exceeding 500. So, 500,000 and 1 centavo is already a covered transaction.
So below that, no. What?
The bank should, or the covered person, say the bank must report it. Pag po ba na-report kayo, liable na kayo for money laundering? No, hindi po. Huwag naman po kayo umakto na guilty. Ano lang po yun? Ni-report lang kayo. Saan po kayo ni-report? Sa Anti-Money Laundering Council. Yung council po, sila po yung mag-investigate if indeed you are engaged in money laundering. Kung hindi naman po, huwag po umakto na guilty. Diba? So, for dealers in precious stones and metals, how much is the covered transaction? Exceeding 1 million pesos. And the last po, ito nga po yung bago, RA 10927, kapag casino ka, whether ship-based or internet-based, magkano po ang covered transaction natin? Wala po sa reviewer. Wala. Ang covered transaction natin ay exceeding 5 million pesos. 5 million pesos. Pagkasino. So, class, pag pina-enumerate ko sa inyo, what are the covered transactions? Tatlo po yung isasagot. The first one is yung general rule, exceeding 500,000. Second, kapag dealers in precious stones and precious metals, exceeding 1 million. And kapag casino, exceeding 5 million pesos. Yun po yung tatlo na isasagot
Yung
natin.
real estate, sir, wala na yun.
Yung real estate, hindi po siya covered transaction, but they are required to report. But they are not really covered transaction. It's just that they are being compelled by the council, AMLAC council to report it. Pero hindi siya covered transaction.
So, dapat pag mag-transaction ka, 500 ikaw pa rin.
Papasok yan, sir, sa suspicious transaction. Pag ganun yung, punta tayo ngayon sa suspicious transaction. Suspicious transaction. What is the difference between covered and suspicious transaction? Number one, the amount involved. In suspicious transaction, it is regardless of any amount. Regardless of any amount. But there is the presence of a suspicious circumstances. Ano po yung suspicious circumstances? Number one, ano po yung unang-una?
There's no underlying
There's no underlying legal or trading obligation. Isipin nyo po, nilagay nyo sa, nag-open kayo bank deposit, bank account, nilagay nyo doon. Source of income, wala. Allowance lang ni mother. Tapos, nagde-deposit kayo ng 10 million, 20 million. Wala kayong underlying legal or trade obligation. How can you obtain 10 million or 5 million? You will be reported as a suspicious, the transaction will be reported as a suspicious transaction. Suspicious transaction po yan. Another,
The client is not properly identified.
the client is not properly identified. Again, we have the principle of the KYC. Know your client or know your customer principle. Pag hindi po properly identified or ayaw magpa-identify properly, it will be reported. The account will be reported. Ano pa po?
The amount involved is not commensurate with the financial capacity.
Alright, not commensurate to the financial capacity. Parang yung example natin kanina, government employee, kumikita ng 30,000 monthly, pero meron 10 million, 20 million na dinideposit sa account. That's commensurate to the amount of source of income. It will be flagged as a suspicious transaction. Ano pa po?
Client's transaction is structured.
Ayan, yung gustong mangyari ni Sir kanina. The transaction of the client is structured in a way as to evade reporting.
Reporting.
Alam niyo, dahil alam na natin kayo na 500,000 i-report, exceeding 500, i-report na tayo, ano gagawin natin? Today, 495. Bukas, 480. Next day, 500 sakto. The next day after, 499. Yung bangko, kung isa-isa lang yung titignan, hindi kayo i-report talaga as a covered kasi hindi ka pasok sa exceeding 500. Pero, pag in-evaluate niya ang account mo at napansin niya na i-structure mo in such a way as to avoid reporting, lahat na yun i-report as a suspicious transaction. So, wag na po magtakna, sir. Baka ma-report din. Ano pa? Meron pa ba?
The transaction is in any way related to a loan.
Ayan, if it's anyway related to a local activity, of course, it will be reported and any other analogous or similar circumstance to the foregoing. I-report kayo. Paano yun? Halimbawa, 10 million may pumasok na pera, there's no underlying legal trade or obligation. Will it be reported as a covered transaction or a suspicious transaction? Eh parehong exceeding exceeding sa 500, that's suspicious. It will only be reported as a suspicious transaction. Mas mabigat ang binibigay na weight ng AMLAC sa suspicious transactions. Kasi class, yung 500,000 technically, yung sa malalaking business, they deal every day with millions or even hundreds of millions every day. Every day nire-report yun. Pero hindi na siya ganun ka-suspicious. Pero yung pag bigla ka na-receive ng 10 million, yan, suspicious transaction yan. I-report. Should the bank inform you that it is reporting your account or your transaction? No. Bawal yun. There is a confidentiality of reporting required from covered persons. Pag itong covered persons in-inform kayo, they will be held criminally liable. Bawal kasi na-inform. Hindi kayo pwedeng inform na na-report kayo. What if na-report kayo, nalaman ninyo, pero wala namang katotohanan yung report. Halimbawa, nakareceive kayo ng 20 million. Totoo naman nakareceive kayo ng 20 million kasi may nagmana sa inyo. Namatay si Henry C. Ninong niyo pala, pero manahan kayo ng 20 million. Kaya syempre, i-report yun ng bangko. Eh, nalaman mo ni-report ng bangko kasi question ka ng AMLAC eh. Pwede mo bang kasuhan yung mga bangko na, uy, ba't mo naman ako na-report? Eh, paano ko to? Hindi yung pwedeng, or if you will file a case against the bank or the covered person who reported you, it will not prosper. Under what provision? Under the so-called safe harbor provision. Under the Anti-Money Laundering Act. Ano po yung safe harbor provision? Nakalagay yan sa syllabus last year, class this year, nandiyan pa rin yung syllabus, baka itanong na this year. No criminal, nor civil, no administrative case can be filed against the covered persons if they reported your bank account that constitutes covered or suspicious transaction if these covered persons are only acting out of their duty pursuant to Anti-Money Laundering Act. Hindi mo sila pwedeng kasuhan if they're only acting pursuant to their duty to report. Wala pong kaso yun. That's their duty. You cannot file a case against bank secrecy, violation of bank secrecy law kasi they're required to report your account or they're required to report your transaction. Wala po violation. Safe harbor provision. Okay, punta po tayo sa prosecution of money laundering cases. Where do you file a case for money laundering? Regional Trial Court. Paano po kapag public officer ang involved? Where do you file a case? We still file the case with Sandigan Bayan if the public officer is covered under the jurisdiction of the Sandigan Bayan. Sino ba yung mga covered ng Sandigan Bayan? SG 27 and taas. So pagpataas, doon mo ipang-file. And even if not SG 27 but enumerated under the law, under Sandigan Bayan law, they're also covered by the jurisdiction of the Sandigan Bayan. So you go to the Sandigan Bayan. Below that or not covered sa regional trial court.
Sir, even a private individual provided that he conspired with the public officer.
Yun yung susunod kong tanong. Yung tanong ni Sir Mario. How about private individuals acting in conspiracy with public officers? They will be filed saan? Kung SG 27 is covered by Sandigan Bayan law, sa Sandigan Bayan din. Kahit na they're acting in conspiracy. Kung hindi, doon sa regular, sa RTC. Paano po kapag yung ka-conspire ay namatay na? Yung SG-27, namatay na. Private individual na lang yung buhay. Sandigan Bayan pa rin po. Sandigan Bayan pa rin. Hindi siya RTC.
Sir, following your lucid explanation, suppose that particular
We
individual,
just stick on the law.
yes, was sentenced by the RTC and he wanted to appeal. Will we are going to visit the Court of Appeals, in the Supreme Court or the Sandigan Court?
RTC?
Yes, because he's a private individual and therefore it is beyond the jurisdiction of the Sandigan Court.
Wala pa rin sila court of appeals.
Hindi ba, Sandigan Bayan pursuant to law?
private individual.
Yes, yes, but he was charged with conspiracy with the public officer. Merely the public officer, let's say, was already dead.
Sorry. The private individual was charged in conspiracy with
Yes,
the...
yes. And he was convicted by the regional court. My question is when he's going to appeal.
Then where should it be appealed, sir?
Mr. should be disantigued. Pursuant to jurisprudence.
You filed with the Santiago Bayan, pursuant to Sir Mario and the jurisprudence.
Even my Mario, this is jurisprudence. Yes, I'm extra sure about that.
Anyway, so in the prosecution of money laundering, do you need to prove first the predicate offense? You don't. You don't need to prove first the predicate offense. They can be prosecuted. The person can be prosecuted simultaneously for money laundering and the predicate offense. Does acquittal in the predicate offense means acquittal in money laundering? No. They have two different elements. Predicate offense is a different element. Money laundering is different element. So no need. They proceed independently. In fact, in money laundering, what you need to prove is there is a proceed from an illegal activity. You don't need to prove the illegal activity beyond reasonable doubt. Kasi halimbawa, estafa or theft, na-prove na may unlawful activity, na-prove na may proceeds, pero hindi naman na-prove lahat ng elements for lack of, walang witness or hindi na-prove beyond reasonable doubt. There is still unlawful activity, pero at may proceed, therefore, pwede pa rin mag-proceed yung money laundering. Walang kinalaman yung isa sa bawat isa. They're separate. In money laundering, you need to prove lang yung proceeds. That the proceeds came from an unlawful activity. Regardless kung na-convict or hindi yung tao na involved. Do you need to have a... So, now let's leave money laundering, let's go to, di pa tayo tapos. Let's just leave the prosecution of money laundering, let's go to freeze orders. Freeze order. Why do we need to have freeze order? Actually, freeze order is a provisional remedy on the part of the Anti-Money Laundering Council, so that they can ensure that the proceeds of this unlawful activity will not be dissipated when a case for money laundering will be filed or during investigation. So, kaya mo pinapag-freeze yung asset kasi during investigation, you don't want the parties to be alarmed and to know that the investigation is going, and if they knew, they will be able to hide their assets. So what will you do is to freeze the asset. Nasa bangko yan, hindi papagalaw sa iyo na court yung asset. Where do you file a petition for freeze order? Court of Appeals, ex parte. Who will file it on behalf of the Anti-Money Laundering Council? OSG, Office of the Solicitor General. Within how many days should the Court of Appeals act on the petition? 24 hours. The freeze order is effective for how many days? For 20 days. Effective for 20 days. Within the period of 20 days, the Court of Appeals will conduct a hearing to determine whether it can be extended or it will not be extended anymore. If it will be extended, it will be up to how many days or months? 6 months. After the lapse of 6 months, the freeze order automatically expires if there is no case for money laundering filed. If there is a case of money laundering filed within a period of 6 months, then the freeze order is automatically extended. The Court of Appeals will forward the case to the appropriate regional trial court or Santiago Bayan as the case may be. Forward lang yun ng CA. So, yung money laundering, pag may na-file ka, tuloy ang freeze order. Pag wala, If you are the agreed person, kung asset mo yung na-freeze, what will be your remedy? File a motion to lift the freeze order on the ground that the money involved or the property involved does not in any way relate to money laundering. Yun yung remedy mo. Is there an instance wherein you can file, you can have freeze order without court order, without going to the Court of Appeals? Yes. If the predicate offenses are terrorism and terrorism financing, based on Terrorism Prevention and Suppression Act of 2012, in relation to Human Security Act or yung Terrorism Law of 2007. Okay, class, remember, again, as a rule for freeze orders, you need to secure court order from the Court of Appeals for you to freeze the assets. Pero there are times, or there is an exception. You don't need to secure freeze order if you're the AMLA. You can issue the freeze order if the predicate offense is terrorism or terrorism financing or financing of terrorism pursuant to Terrorism Prevention and Suppression Act. Yun po yung exception to na. Let's go to bank inquiry.
Excuse me. Since we are talking about the predictive crime, about the crime of plunder under RA 1980, still need to prove the predictive crime before the person charged with plunder should be convicted.
What did you, sir?
The predictive crime under Republic 1980 in plunder must be established via reasonable doubt. So still I need to prove that first, because in the case of Arroyo versus Sandigong Bayan, the Supreme Court Robert Samin issued a decision by legislation because according to the decision to justify the death of gratitude of this animal,
Sir, do not put opinions in when you answer or when you discuss kasi we're purely legal.
yes, because in that case, the acquittal of Arroyo was based on that Arroyo was acquitted because the principal accused in the crime of plunder was not mentioned in the information according to the decision in the case of Sandigan.
So what is your question, sir?
Is the predicate crime of stated under Republic 1980 must first be established before.
In plunder class under RA 1980, the so-called predicate crimes there refers to those acts enumerated under the plunder law, such that a series or combination of those acts and you amass a wealth of 50 million will constitute plunder. When you file a case for plunder, you must already include in the information those predicate acts. Those acts are the ones that you will prove in court for you to establish plunder. What if you fail to prove, say, 50 million or one of the predicate acts, but you prove some of the predicate acts such as misappropriation or raids in public treasury? To na-prove you yung other predicate acts, the person can be convicted not of plunder, but of the other acts, penalized acts, pursuant to the variance doctrine in your rules on criminal procedure. Please ask that in your criminal law review professor or your remedial law professor. Okay? So, wag na po dito kasi wala na po tayong time and we have a lot to cover. I will entertain all other questions on all other subjects after we finish our commercial law review. Okay lang sa akin. Pero for now, mahaba pa po yung commercial law review. Kailangan po muna natin mag-focus dito. Sorry, sir. So, next time po, if you have other questions, you just ask after na lang po.
Yes.
Yes, that's part of academic freedom.
Sir, not the political review.
Okay. So, after matapos natin yung money laundering, okay, so para matapos lang natin, so, going back, we have the bank inquiry. Punta naman tayo sa bank inquiry. So, tapos na tayo sa freeze order. As a rule, court order exempt if the predicate offense is terrorism or terrorism financing. Pwede po, pwede. Pero kung bank inquiry yan, as a rule also, general rule, we need to secure court order. Saan po tayo kukuha ng bank inquiry order? Court of Appeals. Sino po magpa-file? Solicitor General. Office of the Solicitor General. The Court of Appeals must act on the petition within how many, within what period? 24 hours also. Pag na-act yan, you can now inquire into the bank deposits. However, as an exemption, there are offenses, predicate offenses, wherein you don't need to secure court order. Ano-ano po yung hindi natin kailangan ng court order? Kidnapping for ransom. Hijacking. Destructive arson. Murder. Violation of certain provisions of the Dangerous Drugs Act. Terrorism and terrorism financing also. What else? Other analogous circumstances. Offenses similar in nature as committed abroad. So, in those instances, plus, you may, AMLAC may not ask a court order. Pwede na silang mag-inquire kagad ng bank deposits. So, again, baka po malito. Kapag po ang tanong natin ay, what are the exceptions wherein the AMLAC may freeze the assets without need of court order? Ano po yung predicate offenses natin doon? Dalawa. Terrorism and financing of terrorism or terrorism financing. Freeze order. Mas mabigat kasi yun. Pero pag bank inquiry lang, ano? Marami. Kidnapping, hijacking, destructive arson, kidnapping for ransom, ha? Kasi pag kidnapping na wala namang parent, dapat may ransom kasi may proceed ka doon, nandun palang activity. Kidnapping for ransom, hijacking, destructive arson, murder, violation of the Dangerous Drugs Act, terrorism, terrorism financing, and other, yung analogous, okay, similar offenses committed abroad. So, iyon po, pwede kayong mag-inquire. Yung po yung mga exceptions. Kanina, freeze lang ang asset, dalawa lang po. Terrorism and terrorism financing. Section 11 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act provides for the procedure on bank inquiry. It was questioned in the case of Sabido Pagente Binay versus Court of Appeals. In that case, yung kay Binay, ito po yung tumatakbo siya ng president before. Di ba nung tumatakbo siya president, lahat ng mga ari-arian niya inungkat, lahat ng mga tao related sa kanya inungkat. So, one of the law firm na connected yung kamag-anak niya is yung Subido Pagente Binay, law offices. So, ini-inquire yung bank account no law firm. Anong ginawa ng law firm? It challenged the constitutionality of the bank inquiry provision, which is section 11 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act. Ang sabi nila, it deprives the owner of the account due process. Bakit? Remember, when you file it with the Court of Appeals, it is ex parte. Ex parte application lang yung bank inquiry. No need to inform the other party. So, na-deprive ba yung due process mo? Sabi ng Supreme Court dito, no. Because when is due process essential? It will result in the deprivation of life, liberty, or property. Sa bank inquiry ba may dinedeprive na life? Wala. Liberty? Wala. Property? Wala. Titingnan lang. It is part of the investigatory process. So, there is no deprivation of life, liberty, or property. Therefore, the contention of violation of due process will not hold. Section 11 remains constitutional. It has been severally repeated in two other cases subsequently decided na covered until June 2019. So expect na lumabas yun this part. Then, okay, so what if, class, there is a proceed of unlawful activity, but you cannot convict the person because the person is innocent of money laundering. Kasi halimbawa, innocent siya. Halimbawa, tayo yung mga nagnakaw ng pera, pero ang binigay natin yung proceeds ng pera doon sa mga anak natin. Yung anak natin yung technically yung naglalaunder, pero he has no knowledge that he is committing money laundering. Can he be convicted of money laundering? No. Kasi ang element natin kanina, he must know that he is transacting and proceeds of unlawful activity. But AMLAC knows that the money he's transacting is actually a proceed of an unlawful activity. Proceed yun ng unlawful activity. Pwede ba yun makuha ng AMLAC or ma-forfeit in favor of the state? Yes. AMLAC will now institute what we call as petition for civil forfeiture. Civil forfeiture lang. Civil case lang siya. It's a non-conviction based proceeding wherein the ultimate goal is to forfeit proceeds of illegal activity in favor of the state. Yun yung mga times na nag-investigate ka, alam mo ng procedure ng legal unlawful activity, pero hindi mo alam mo sa sarili mo, hindi mo siya mapuprove beyond reasonable doubt. Kasi nga, mahirap ma-prove yung money laundering. So, pero alam mo na proceeds ng unlawful activity, then you can simply file a petition for civil forfeiture. By the way, in money laundering cases, criminal cases, once you're adjudged guilty of money laundering, all the proceeds of the money laundering will be forfeited in favor of the state. Kumbaga, may built-in civil forfeiture na agad yun. Kasama na yun, no? Civil forfeiture. Pero kung hindi mo mapuprove yun, pwede ka mag-institute lang separately for petition for civil forfeiture. Last public lang sa AMLAC is yung the secretariat, the council, Anti-Money Laundering Council, yung body composing the policy body on money laundering matter. It is composed of 3 persons. The Governor of the Bank Central as the chairman, the Insurance Commissioner as member, and the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission as a member also. Tatlo lang sila. Yung council, tatlo lang talaga. They lay down the policy. Sino po nag-execute nun? Yung secretariat. Anti-Money Laundering Council, secretariat. Sila po yung mga tao talaga na nag-execute, nag-investigate sa kanilang report lahat. So, we'll end there. We'll end with that. Next meeting, we'll start with intellectual property code. And include also e-commerce act. Yung kasunod sa syllabus at kasunod sa syllabus, e-commerce.
Intellectual property.
Intellectual property.
Okay. Electronic Commerce Act.
Ayan. Will include Electronic Commerce Act kasi po covered na siya ngayon na last bar covered na siya. So expenses bar covered din siya. So this study, intellectual property code, sapat-sapat yun for 4 hours. So intellectual property code and then 1 hour should devote to Electronic Commerce Act or e-commerce act. Our next meeting will be on next week, bakasyon po muna.
Hey.
Para makapag-aral. Ako, kasi ako na naman yung nagre-recite. So, we just meet on the 29th. So, ang target po, ganit po schedule natin para alam na po ninyo. So, net 29 ay Intellectual Property Code and E-Commerce Act. On March 7, our target will be, ano yung susunod? Insurance and, ano pa yung kasunod ng insurance? Insurance and transport. Pero baka yung transpo hindi natin matapos. So baka kalahati lang ng transpo on the 7. On the 14, we will finish transpo and ano yung special law na isa? Maliit. Data Privacy Act plus Securities Regulation Code. I-skip na natin. Tapos nun, 21, midterm exam.
Ay, March.
Kasi after midterm po, pagbalik natin, corporation law, 2 meetings yun, kasama na yung Foreign Investments Act, and then 1 meeting for CREA. Tapos, finals na po. Kasi yung 4th year, kasabay ninyo, mabilis po, tapos na rin tayo. Gusto nyo mahaba-haba, resit-resit, para medyo maba yung pag-resit, mabagal. Discuss na lang. But, if you still have time, we have to modify our curriculum or syllabus based on the curriculum that will be issued by the Supreme Court. Eh, wala pa kasi. Pag meron, kung may dinagdag na law, halimbawa, Philippine Competition Act, inasama rin po natin curriculum discussion. Okay po. So, we'll see you on the 29th.